Night hangs over the Wolfschanze like a shroud, thick, wet, and unmoving. The pine trees stand frozen in the cold, their needles slick with a thin glaze of ice that crackles whenever the wind brushes through. Inside the command bunker, the air feels even colder, though the lamps burn low and hot. The walls sweat, the men inside do not. A runner stumbles down the hallway, boots slapping against concrete. His breath rasps like a dying engine. He slows only when he reaches the final armored door, the Führer's conference room, where 2 SS guards stand stiff as iron rods. His gloved hands tremble, clutching the message he wishes he didn't have to deliver. Inside, Adolf Hitler sits hunched over the heavy oak table, a map unfurled before him like a battlefield corpse. Red pencils circle fortifications, arrows thrust outward, and thick black lines define the one thing he believes still protects: Germany, the Siegfried Line, the Dragon's Teeth, the bunkers, the minefields, his last stone wall against the American tide. The bunker smells of burnt coffee, cold metal, and the damp wool of uniforms worn too long. A silence presses down, taut like a drawn wire. The runner enters. His boots squeal. Everyone turns. Hitler doesn't raise his head at first. His hand hovers over the map, tracing the fortifications he once proclaimed impregnable. Only, when he feels the runner's fear, like heat, does he finally look up. What is it? His voice is thin, sharp, the sound of a blade dragged across stone. The runner swallows. His tongue feels like sand. Mein Führer! The Americans. Their tanks. They've broken through the Siegfried Line. The room exhales in one collective shudder. Hitler's pupils constrict. The pencil in his hand snaps. The war, for the first time, seems to whisper back at him. The message spreads through the bunker corridors like smoke. Thin, choking, impossible to ignore. Officers whisper it to one another in fragments, as if saying the full sentence aloud might summon the American engines themselves. They've broken through. The line is breached. The Dragon's Teeth have crumbled. Hitler walks, slowly, down the narrow hallway that leads toward the Situation Room. His footsteps are soft, but each one feels deliberate, as though he must force the ground to accept his weight. The lamps flicker as he passes, casting long shadows that stretch across the concrete like dark fingers reaching for him. Every soldier he passes snaps to attention, but their eyes betray them. Some avert their gaze, afraid he might see the truth behind them. Others stare too hard, daring themselves to believe this is not the beginning of the end. The corridor smells of oil, wet wool, and the faint metallic bite of fear. Radios hum behind closed doors. Low, frantic bursts of English chatter intercepted from the front lines. American tank commanders shouting coordinates as if distance itself were dissolving. Hitler pauses as a gust of cold air slips in from the outer door, an officer entering from the snow-dusted night. His coat white at the shoulders. His face is gray, wind-burnt, and raw from what he has seen. He salutes, hand shaking. Mein Führer! I came directly from Aachen. The ground. It shakes with their engines. The people are fleeing. They say the Americans move like a river, steady, unstoppable. Hitler stares at him unblinking, as though searching the man's face for a lie he desperately wants to find. But the officer drops his gaze. There is no lie, only the sound, distant yet unmistakable, of something vast and armored rolling closer. Through the winter night, Hitler moves on, each step heavier than the last, as if the entire Reich is beginning to sag beneath its own collapsing myth. The Situation Room is warmer than the corridors, but it feels colder. Maps spread across the central table glow under harsh lamps, their edges curled, their surfaces scarred by pencil marks, spilled coffee and sleepless nights. Officers cluster around them like men gathered at the edge of a grave. At the far end, a massive radio set crackles with static. A young operator leans into it, headphones trembling around his ears. His knuckles are white. Sweat beads along his hairline even though the room is freezing. As Hitler enters, every spine straightens. The room stiffens. He walks to the table without a word. A general slides a new aerial photo toward him. It is black and white, but the destruction pulses through it in shades of ash and ruin. Bunkers crushed, trenches swallowed, Dragon's Teeth scattered like broken tombstones. American tanks massive. Dark silhouettes crawl through the breaches like metallic beasts shrugging off the last restraints. Hitler's fingers rest on the photograph. The paper trembles. What unit? He asks quietly. 3rd Armored Division, mein Führer, the general replies. The Americans call them, he swallows. They call them Spearhead. The word hangs in the air like a blade. A second report arrives, hand-delivered, still warm from being typed in frantic haste. An officer reads, "Enemy armor advancing 25 kilometers past the line. Resistance collapsing. Civilians fleeing in disorder." Hitler closes his eyes just for a moment. The lamps hum. Someone's breath whistles sharply, the sound of a man trying not to panic. He opens his eyes again and whispers almost to himself, "Impossible. The line was built to hold them. To hold anyone." But reality sits before him in stark black and white. The impregnable wall, his wall, is broken. A myth has died, and the silence that follows feels like morning. Morning drips slowly into the bunker, gray and reluctant, as though the sky itself hesitates to witness what unfolds below. The staff gathers in the dining hall, a cramped room with metal tables, weak bulbs, and the constant smell of boiled potatoes. Today, even that scent feels thinner. Hitler enters late. His face is pale, waxy, as if carved from a material that has begun to melt. His left hand twitches faintly at his side. Officers pretend not to notice. They straighten their uniforms, lift their chins, swallow their fears. An adjutant places a breakfast tray before him. Black bread, thin butter, and lukewarm chicory coffee. Not much, not enough, but more than millions outside these walls will see today. Hitler doesn't touch it. Instead, he stares at the bread crust, the way its surface cracks like frozen soil. His mind churns through reports. Americans handing out chocolate to German civilians. Soldiers tossing canned meat to starving children. Medics treating the wounded at the edge of battle. One report from a shaken SS officer described American GIs setting up field kitchens inside captured German bunkers, feeding civilians before even securing the area. It is a detail that gnaws at him. He whispers, "They feed the people before they fight." A general clears his throat. "Propaganda, mein Führer." Lies meant to demoralize. But Hitler shakes his head slowly. No, they want to break the spirit. They understand hunger, the way it weakens loyalty. The room freezes. Because they all know hunger is everywhere now. Berlin, Cologne, the villages along the Rhine, mothers trading wedding rings for stale flour, children digging through rubble for potato peels. And now rumors of American rations, warm, rich, impossible, float through shattered towns like ghostly promises. Hitler grips the edge of the table. His knuckles turn bone white. If the Siegfried Line broke the body of the Reich, American abundance is breaking its soul. The afternoon briefing drags on like a slow bleeding wound. Maps shift. Voices rise. Radios hiss. But the true battle unfolds in the spaces between spoken words. In the tiny moments when truth slips through the cracks of discipline. A liaison officer from the Western Front arrives. Uniform muddy, boots stiff with frozen earth. He looks as though he hasn't slept in days. His cheeks are red from windburn. His eyes are hollow pits of disbelief. He salutes. "Mein Führer." "I have reports from Schmidt and Monschau." "Speak," Hitler commands. The officer's throat bobs once. "The American units. They are treating captured German soldiers." He hesitates, searching for a phrase less dangerous. "With courtesy." No one moves. The word itself feels obscene in this bunker, where every sentence is sharpened for war. "Explain," Hitler says, voice cold, flat. The officer continues, desperate to remain factual. "Our wounded. They were bandaged. Given water, cigarettes, some, even chocolate." A flicker ripples around the room, shifts in posture, tightened jaws, eyes darting toward the Führer to see how he will react. Hitler leans forward, his gaze drilling into the officer like a screw turning slowly. "You are telling me," he says, "that the Americans, our enemy, are treating German prisoners better than we treat them?" "No, mein Führer, I mean," the officer stumbles, trembling. "I mean only that they have not mistreated them." A dangerous silence drops. Outside, wind presses against the bunker walls. A low, mournful hum like distant artillery. Hitler's lip curls, barely noticeable but sharp enough to cut. "This is psychological warfare," he mutters. "Kindness as a weapon. They want to make our men doubt, to make them question the Reich. But doubt is already here, floating in the stale bunker air like smoke. Because every officer in that room knows the truth. Sometimes dignity wounds deeper than brutality, and the Americans are using it with precision. Night settles again, heavy and dark, but the bunker refuses to sleep. Too many voices, too much static, too many reports spilling in like cold water through the cracks of a sinking ship. A propaganda officer enters the situation room, clutching a stack of intercepted American leaflets, fresh, crisp, printed on paper smoother than anything Germany can still produce. He lays them on the table in front of Hitler with trembling care. The lamps cast a yellow halo across their glossy surfaces. Hitler lifts one. On it is a photograph. An American city in full daylight. Streets clean. Stores open. Cars shining. Children laughing around a fountain. A world untouched by bombs, hunger, or winter. Below the image, a line of text in German. While your cities burn, ours flourish. The room grows colder. Another leaflet shows rows of American tanks rolling off an assembly line. Shiny, unscarred, endless. Below it, for every tank you destroy, we build 3. Hitler's jaw clenches. He turns the paper over, fingers tight enough to creak. These are lies, a general says quickly. Too quickly. Exaggerations. Fabrications meant to, but he doesn't finish. Because they all know the truth. They've heard stories from the front. GIs with pockets full of candy. Sweaters without holes, boots without patches, rations that smell of meat and warmth. Rumors whisper through the Reich like ghosts. American houses with electricity day and night, refrigerators full of food, radios playing music instead of air raid sirens. Meanwhile, Germany sinks deeper into darkness. Streets blacked out, ruins where apartments used to stand. Chimneys cold, bread lines stretching like funeral processions. Hitler stares at the leaflets again, and something flickers behind his eyes. Not fear, not yet, but a terrible recognition. The enemy is not only stronger, they are whole, and Germany is breaking, piece by piece, city by city, belief by belief.